So instead of doing a normal servant review for Shuten Caster, because she's come back over on the JP version of the game permanently, by the way, I thought that we would go ahead and do a video talking about what we could do to improve Shuten Caster instead of doing a normal servant review and kind of pretending that, you know, she doesn't have any faults or anything. Now, if you're playing JP, I still think she's worth picking up because you never know when they might be good for a specific event, or maybe they have event bonus, or they're just good for something in general. Maybe they get a buff, but she definitely has her faults, right? But I think there's a few little things that we could do to kind of tune up Shuten's kit a little bit that would actually make her a very solid option for free-to-play players. But before we begin, if you guys have not already, make sure you leave a like on the video and you subscribe to the channel for that daily FGO content, as your boy is making sure that you know about everything going on both the NA and JP versions of the game. Also, if you want to see me play FGO live, I play that every weekday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over at my Twitch, which is linked down in the description down below. But without further ado, let's start talking about this. So obviously we can't really look at anything, you know, in regards to Shuten's hits or anything right here, right? Because they're never going to change stuff like this. I can't say never, but they've said that they wanted to, and it still has not happened, and I think that was like 3 years ago. So maybe it's just something that they're not able to change at the moment. I know other mobile games do have that issue. For instance, I play Dokkan, and there are certain things that they're not able to buff in that game because they just can't actually mess with the programming for certain units, or they can't like change certain parts of what the characters do. And maybe that's kind of an issue that they're having with these hits and everything over here. But realistically, I think her hits and everything are fine. She's got the triple arts deck with 4 hits a pop, and then she's got 0.46% NP gain. So in theory, if you were like critting and stuff, you could have a really good time when it comes to refunding your NP. The only thing that's a little bit wonky is that she's rocking that deck, but then she's also got like a Buster single target NP with 13 hits. Dog, if this was an arts NP, it would go so hard. A 13 hit, that is so much refund you could be getting back. But, you know, it's whatever. They wanted to be a Buster servant. That's perfectly fine. I mean, most of the single target casters that people are using are going to be Buster servants. So sure, let's just throw her in there with like Sanzo and Ilya. At least we get Corday and Izumo later on this year that get a little bit better. But yeah, regardless, I would have liked her to have an arts NP, but we can't really do anything about that. So first and foremost, something we could do over here. Now, this is kind of like a debuff survivability skill, because both of the things that she's doing here are actually not bad. Like sealing the enemy's NP for a turn is really good because it gives you another avenue of controlling when the enemy is going to blast you with their NP. Keep in mind, it's one of the few things that Castoria doesn't actually do for you. And so by adding this extra avenue survivability, it kind of helps keep the entire party alive. You know, layering on these different types of keeping the party alive is always going to be good, especially because she also smacks them with this reduced critical attack chance by 50% for 3 turns. This is going to stop a lot of crits from coming your way. And when this released, not too bad, but nowadays bosses do way too much. This is really just not good enough anymore. And I think there's a few things that they could go ahead and do with this. Now, she does have this ability to like poison people, right? So I'm thinking maybe you could try to do something where you could give her like a poison special damage mod, or a debuff that procs like when the enemy is poisoned or something along those lines. So then this could be something that could then benefit off of Shuten having poison on the NP. But I think realistically, all they would drop on this is maybe like an enemy defense down or something along those lines. Maybe they would tack a battery onto this, although I would rather that be on the second skill. Now, if they wanted to add more survivability on here, I mean, they could just throw on a dodge, they could throw on an invincibility, something like that could be nice, but I don't really think they're going to go that direction. Maybe a heal could also be just really good in general. If it was like a 3k party heal, again, very good, because Castoria doesn't actually offer that to the party. So I think there are still, aside from just doing damage, right, being like, oh, she gets like bonus damage when the enemy is poisoned, or she lowers the enemy's defense, so you just start doing even more damage, which I didn't think is really the issue with Shuten. I think they could add more utility to this, where it's like maybe a heal or something along those lines. I think that could be really good because Castoria doesn't offer that. But then we move over to the second skill. I think if they wanted to immediately make Shuten Caster much better, all they have to do is move all of these to 3 turn and tack on like a 30% battery, and it makes her infinitely better overnight. Because look at this. It's not like her damage is bad, because you got to look at her free NP5 damage. She's a free to play. That's like the whole point of them, right? Is that they get to do this free NP5 damage. And when she gets her special damage mod, she can hit really hard. I mean, already at baseline, she's hitting harder than Ilya over here. And this is like your premium 5-star servant, but even a 30% battery would at least allow for the dynamic that, well, Ilya's now got a 50% battery, so she might be a little bit easier to use, whereas Shuten, only has a 30%, and maybe sometimes that's just not going to be good enough for whatever setup you're going to be doing. So it would still have a little bit of counterplay in there. You could kind of make do with it a little bit. And then, as far as the dynamic with Sanzo, it'd be like, well, she does a lot more damage than Sanzo does, but she doesn't have the 80% battery that Sanzo has. That is very, very useful. So I think a 30% would definitely help out a lot with it when it comes to like her consistency issues, if you do find yourself experiencing that. And then also, the star weight thing is very nice, because then on either one of these other skills, you could tack on something where she could bomb like 25 or 30 stars, suck them all up, and then just immediately start critting on the arts cards, and it would help her a lot when it comes to actually refunding her NP. And I think this is like one of the buffs that I would really like to see, and then afterwards just tack on like a star bomb on one of these other ones, because I think at that point she becomes really, really solid. Then I suppose if you wanted to, you could toss her an NP upgrade, but she really doesn't need that, right? Because again, her damage is already fine enough. It doesn't really do anything, right? Admittedly, her NP doesn't really do a whole lot, but if you wanted to tack something on here, you could just do like this poison special damage mod or something, right? That way she has like a specific damage mod that she can get sometimes, and one that she could get on follow-up NPs, or it would give a lot of value to like, say, command codes that allow you to poison people on one of them, right? It'd be really nice because you could go like command code with poison, then the NP, right? And like that kind of a brave chain. But I don't know, those are just some ideas that I have for Shuten Caster. I think those would make her a lot better like overnight, but I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comment section down below, because this is one of those servants that like I don't think is unsalvageable, right? Like there's some servants like Medea and Medusa that are going to need a lot of work. Like when you look at their kits, I mean, even for like Medea, it's just like fundamentally her damage scaling is messed up. Like they already like broke that servant's kneecaps like before she even launched, right? But at least because of her massive battery, you can get some value out of her, right? And Medusa, even though I don't think she's particularly great, you could still get some value out of her because she could be like an early wave clear or something along those lines. But Shuten just does not really have a whole lot of usage. I mean, even the writer Liz that we're going to be getting later on this year, she has a lot of usage, right? Because of her special damage mod, and I believe she also has a battery as well. And so you just have like these free-to-play servants that you don't use all the time, or even like Mecha Liz, right? You don't use them all the time, but they do come up in specific nodes, like, and it is nice to have them. But Shuten Caster is just one of those servants that unless you specifically really like Shuten Doji, you're probably not going to be using her. But again, don't think she's unsalvageable. I think we could definitely turn this servant around if we just give her a couple of little buffs. And again, I think the one that would definitely open people's eyes to using her a little bit more would just be kicking these up to 3 turns and adding like a 30% battery. It would help her out a lot more, and it would mean that she is no longer a one-pump chump. She can now fire back-to-back NPs, and she would not lose out on her damage, because that's, again, one of the really good things about free-to-plays is that because they're free NP5s, they just kind of are good beat sticks, right? Like at the end of the day, even if they're not like supremely good, like say Kentucky Rider or Chloe, they can still do a lot of damage. Like even when we get the Idol Altar, the MHX Altar free-to-play unit, even though she's not super great, if you just kind of need someone that can do decent damage, she at least can do that for you, right? But I guess MHX Altar is also in a very similar position of Shuten Doji, where they're not really all that great because it's kind of hard to find a usage for them. But again, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I would love to see what ideas you guys have for trying to fix this servant. And who knows, maybe we will get a buff for them, because this is just part 1 of the evocation thing that we have over on JP. Who knows, for part 2, they might go ahead and just toss in like an event where these guys might be useful, or maybe they'll have some relevancy when it comes to the FGO Arcade collaboration, right? Because who knows, right? They did that for like the Liz thing that we're going to be getting this year, right? When we got all the Liz units coming back, they brought them all back at NP1, and then they like made them available to get to NP5 with the new event, and they all got like buffs and everything. So who knows? Maybe they're not done. Maybe they're just trying to give people the time to focus on leveling up the servants and everything. But I don't know. We'll see what they do moving forward. But yeah, I will catch you guys in the next video, where we're probably going to talk about the ruler Quetzalcoatl, unless they drop something crazy out of nowhere. But, fingers crossed, and maybe they do drop something and I can do a different video. But yeah, with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have a nice day. Peace. Light, guys.